Imagine a world where digital music players reigned supreme, and one company, a tech titan, dared to challenge Apple's iPod dominion. This company wasn't some upstart, it was Microsoft. Yet their ambitious foray into portable music, the Zune, became a punchline, a cautionary tale whispered in tech circles. But what if the story we've been told about the Zune's epic failure is only a fraction of the truth? What if behind the sleek designs and marketing campaigns, there lurked a series of strategic missteps, missed opportunities, and internal battles that painted a far more complex picture than a simple iPod killer flop? To truly grasp the perplexing trajectory of the Zune, we need to rewind to the mid-2000s. It was a digital Wild West, and Apple, with its groundbreaking iPod, wasn't just a player. It was the undisputed sheriff. The iPod wasn't just a device, it was a phenomenon, a cultural touchstone that redefined how we consumed music. Its elegant design, seamless iTunes integration, and massive storage capacity had captivated millions. Suddenly, carrying thousands of songs in your pocket wasn't just a fantasy, it was reality. Everyone, from teenagers to CEOs, seemed to have one. For Microsoft, a company that thrives on ubiquity, this was an unbearable blind spot. They had missed the boat on the MP3 revolution and watched helplessly as Apple carved out a virtually unassailable lead. The pressure within Microsoft to respond, to reclaim a piece of this exploding market, was immense. They couldn't stand by and let Apple dictate the future of digital media unchallenged. Thus, the Zune project was born not just as a product, but as a statement. It was Microsoft's bold declaration that they could innovate, that they could capture the imagination, and that they would not cede an entire market segment to their fiercest rival. They poured resources into it, assembling teams, commissioning designs, and aiming for something truly revolutionary. But sometimes, even the most powerful companies, with unlimited budgets, can fall prey to a series of subtle, yet ultimately fatal miscalculations. From its inception, the Zune was burdened with a near impossible mission to out-Apple Apple. Microsoft's internal codename for the project was Argo, a reference to Jason and the Argonauts' mythical quest, fitting given the monumental task ahead. The device itself was developed by a team within the Entertainment and Devices division, initially led by Jay Allard, a prominent figure in Microsoft's developer ecosystem. Their ambition was clear, not just to clone the iPod, but to surpass it, specifically in the social realm. The Zune was envisioned as a device that fostered connection, not just consumption. Its killer feature, widely touted in early leaks and later in its marketing, was wireless sharing, codenamed Squid internally, and later rebranded as simply Social. Imagine this. You're listening to a song you love, and you can instantly beam it to a friend's Zune, who can then listen to it 3 times over 3 days before deciding whether to buy it. On paper, it sounded revolutionary, a feature Apple wouldn't introduce for years. It was a bold, if slightly convoluted, attempt to differentiate. But as development progressed, crucial figures began to depart. Brian Lee, a key design manager, left in 2005. Jay Allard himself, the visionary behind the Zune, eventually shifted focus, and executive leadership rotated, creating a fragmented vision. Instead of a single, coherent strategy, the Zune's direction became muddled, beset by internal disagreements and competing priorities. There was a lingering fear within Microsoft that they were entering the market too late, and that any attempt to simply mimic the iPod would fall flat. This anxiety led to an overemphasis on differentiating features, sometimes at the expense of simplicity and user experience. The Zune software, while powerful, was notoriously clunky compared to iTunes. It was a separate desktop application, not integrated into the familiar Windows ecosystem in a natural way. Furthermore, Microsoft, a software giant, struggled internally with the intricacies of hardware manufacturing and supply chain management at the scale required for consumer electronics. These weren't just minor hiccups, they were foundational cracks in the very structure of the Zune's foundation, leading to a product that, despite its potential, felt less like a cohesive device and more like a collection of ambitious features cobbled together under immense pressure. Coupled with a color scheme that often veered towards the unappealing, brown, anyone, the Zune was entering a fiercely competitive arena not only late, but also without a truly unified identity. The stage was set for a difficult battle, but an even stranger development was waiting in the wings. Then came the marketing. The Zune marketing. Microsoft poured hundreds of millions into campaigns that often felt disconnected. They frequently depicted hip, urban youth, often dancing in a trance-like state, sometimes without even showing the Zune itself. The messaging was murky, failing to clearly articulate why someone should choose a Zune over an iPod. Was it social? Was it the integrated FM tuner? Was it just different? The public wasn't convinced. The Zune sought to create a counterculture, edgy vibe, but Apple already was the culture. It was akin to trying to market a new search engine in a world that already instinctively Googled everything. Early sales were predictably sluggish. Compounding these struggles, the Zune suffered a highly publicized, deeply embarrassing glitch. On December 31, 2008, all 30GB Zune models worldwide inexplicably froze, refusing to boot up. The cause, a software bug related to leap years, a digital Y2K bug, if you will. This was devastating. Just as Microsoft was trying to rebuild trust, their flagship product effectively self-destructed on New Year's Eve, leaving thousands of users with bricked devices. This wasn't merely a software error, it was a PR nightmare that solidified the Zune's image as unreliable and poorly conceived. Microsoft quickly released a patch, but the damage was done. The Zune never recovered. The company desperately tried to pivot. Recognizing the failure of the standalone device, they rebranded the Zune software and services, attempting to integrate them into the Xbox ecosystem as Xbox Music and Zune Music Pass. The Zune HD, a later iteration, was lauded for its beautiful OLED screen and innovative interface. But by then, the iPhone and the broader smartphone revolution had fundamentally altered the portable music landscape. Dedicated MP3 players were becoming obsolete. In October 2011, Microsoft quietly announced the discontinuation of all Zune hardware. There was no fanfare, no grand farewell, just a hushed acknowledgement that the dream was over. To this day, the Zune remains a perplexing enigma. Was it truly a bad product, or simply a product released at the wrong time by a company that struggled to understand its target audience and manage internal conflicts? Perhaps it was a potent combination of all these factors. The Zune's legacy, though often simplified to a flop, is actually far more nuanced. It undeniably paved the way for Microsoft's later successes in gaming and entertainment, including elements that would eventually contribute to the user interface of Windows Phone and Xbox. Elements of its media services were foundational to what would become Groove Music, and eventually integrated into Microsoft's broader cloud offerings. The Zune was Microsoft's painful, expensive lesson in consumer electronics, product differentiation, and the brutal realities of competing with a cultural phenomenon like the iPod. It taught them that having superior features doesn't always guarantee success if the user experience, marketing, and timing are not perfectly aligned. It highlights that even the biggest companies can make strategic blunders and fall victim to internal inertia. The Zune was a product that dared to be different, perhaps too different for its own good, and definitely too late. It stands as a powerful reminder that in the fast-paced world of technology, a moment of hesitation, a misstep in vision, or an inability to properly tell your story can doom even the most ambitious undertaking. And while we may never fully uncover every internal struggle or missed opportunity that sealed its fate, the ghost of the Zune continues to haunt the hallways of tech history, a colourful, if ultimately tragic, monument to a dream that never quite took flight.